Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here, and today we're Italian cheesemakers in the early 20th century, making, aging, and selling cheeses where you're trying to become the most prestigious cheesemaker in all of Italy by running a highly successful creamery and crafting exceptional cheeses. Formaggio is a standalone expansion to the popular game Fromage, which, by the way, won my strategy game of the year for 2024. Now that means it can be played on its own or in conjunction with the original game. Now it's a simultaneous worker placement game for 1 to 4 players. It takes 30 to 45 minutes to play. It's for ages 14 and up and published by Road to Infamy Games. Now it's being crowdfunded right now, so I'm going to show you how it works. I'll see you on the other side. This is a crowdfunding preview, so all the art and components you see here are not final, they are prototypes. To see all the most up-to-date art and components, check the link in the description of this video. This game's all about making cheese, and you're going to be doing it in 4 different venues. You'll notice that this board basically has 4 big sort of cheese slices, and those are 4 different venues. The main way you're going to be scoring is in each of these venues, because they each score differently. Think of each of these venues as like a mini game of scoring. Now this region has a little bit of sort of an area control aspect, where if you're the orange player, we look at the different regions. We have this region, which is 1. We have this region and this region. There's all different regions. This orange one is in 1, 2, 3 different regions. You'll multiply that by the amount of flags on all the spots that you made cheeses. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 flags times 3 different total regions, that's 15 points. That's what you're trying to do in this one. And by the way, this game scales for player count. If you'll notice, there's a couple of spots that are blocked. Different things slide into this for different player counts, and they're double-sided. To change it for each player count, you have more than one variation of these. Now here, you're trying to get rows and columns of cheese. In this bronze row, for each pair, you're going to get 2 points. If I'm purple, that pair gets me 2 points. An additional one gets me another 2 points. That's 4 points for these 3 purples in this row. Now we're also going to go in columns as well. These are platinum cheeses. They're new for this Formaggio game. This, if you got both of these, you'd get 14. But these act like a cheese in each of the 3 columns below it. So this actually has 2 in this column and 3 in this column. 2 is 4 points. 3 is 10 points. That's how you're scoring this region. In this region, as you place cheese, you're grabbing a token and placing it in front of you. And you're going to look at all of the unique letters on the bottles. And here we have 4 unique letters there. Now also, if we had gotten this one, it wouldn't be any more unique letters because I already have a C and I already have an E. However, when you place these things, you have to place them on one end, either here or here. Doing so might get you bonuses, like this is a wild, this is going to be a specific resource. This is wild, this will get me this, which is a card. However, if this happened to have been like this wild would get me a berry. We'll talk about the different resources due later, but they get you resources sometimes and endgame points. And depending on how many different bottle letters you have, you'll get a certain amount of points. Now in this region of Venezia, you're getting points by the different waterways. This cheese is next to a 3 and a 1, so this one's worth 4 points. So is this one. This one's worth 4 points. This one's worth 2 points. So you're trying to get points by putting cheeses where there are points. Now how do you get these? We'll talk about how you actually place these cheeses in just a moment, but let's just assume that I'm going to place a cheese in this spot right here. Now this is a gold building. Because it's a gold building, I get to place one of these gold ones, which was 2 points. I can put in any open water space there. I put it here because not only does it get me 2 points for this earlier placed cheese, it's also get me 2 more points for that placed cheese. And when you place in gold buildings, they're worth 2 points. You place in silver buildings, they're worth 1 point. And when you place in one of these platinum buildings, they're worth 3 points. Now we talked about platinum cheeses a little bit earlier, that it's new for this Formaggio. But platinum cheeses, you have to have 3 cheeses already in that area in order to place there. We'll talk about some other placement restrictions. Now that you know what you're trying to do in the main way of scoring points in the game, let's talk about how you go about doing this. Now let's pretend it's our turn and this is where the board is, and let's just say I have 2 workers. Now I can place up to 2 by default. One of them you could place in the resource facing you. The other one is you can make cheese with. Now let's say this is how this looked right now. Now when I place one here, I had to decide which worker I want to place. This one would make white soft cheese. This one would do the yellow cheese. That's part of which one I might want to put out here, because it doesn't affect this, but it will affect which cheese I can make in just a moment. Now, if I place here this resource, I can get cows this turn. If I place this one, If I place it like this, it's going to get me 1. If I place it in here, it's going to get me 2. If I place it in here, it's going to get me 3. This also tells me how many turns it's going to take to get this worker back. Because after everyone takes actions, this is going to spin clockwise. Then any workers that are facing you, you get to pull back. Which means, if I place it here, the reason why I get it back in 1 turn is because after this turn, this is going to spin. This is facing me. At the beginning of every turn, you take the workers that are facing you. Could be 1, could be more than 1. And this is important because this is how you can have such a crunchy Euro, but have it be played in 30 to 45 minutes is because of the simultaneous play where everyone is doing this together. But let's say I did this. Let's say I put it here. I would get 2 cows. Now, they're not really cows. They're livestock, generally speaking. I'm actually showing some of the deluxe components here, by the way. We're going to put these on your board. Every player has a player board. We'll talk more about this later. We'll talk about how you use these later in just a moment as well. Now, again, at most, if you have enough workers, you can place 1 for a resource and 1 for cheese. Now, I could place it here. I have this left. I could place it here, here, here. Again, if I place it here, I would take a cheese, place it here, and I would place my worker on it. So later on, when I take this worker back, the cheese is still there. And again, this is the yellow cheese. It has to be yellow. Here, I could do it here and here. This is different types of sort of jams, if you will, different fruit and jams that you need to use. And that happens to be one of the resources that you can get on 1/4 of the turns of the game. Now let's say we want to do the one that's jam. These are, again, deluxe components. Either one of these are actually, they work the same way. If I want to do jam, I put it here next to the jam. If I want to use it for the the berries, I'll put it here. This is just tracking this. The reason why this is important is at the end of the game, if I'd multiply the number of things here times the number of things that are here, and that's another way to score. And by doing that, it allows me to place on the jam spot, and it's going to be the right, which means this is going to take 3 turns to age. I won't get this worker back for 3 turns, but it's why these are gold cheeses and why they're worth more. These ones you get your worker back sooner. They don't age as long. 2 turns, less points. Bronze, you get it back next turn, less points. Platinums take 4 turns to come back to you. That's why they're worth so much if you get both of those. Now, by default, at most, you're placing 1 worker for resources and 1 for cheese, if you even have 2 workers at the time. Sometimes you might not have any workers on a turn, depending on how things work out. But you could spend these, like in this case, I need to spend 2 livestock, and I can immediately, as a bonus action, make a yellow cheese to the right. Now you don't need to use a worker for that, but if there was a right-facing yellow cheese, I could spend those and do it, even if I produce cheese that turn. So these are the turns that allow you to do different cheeses. You spend livestock, and that's a bonus, and you don't even need the worker to do it. Now again, once everyone's gone, you will turn the board, and you take back all your workers. In this case, I only get 1 back. So I'm going to need to decide, do I want to play in here and get a resource, or go here and make a cheese? Now, so you're going to have to decide which one you're going to do. Sometimes you might not get any workers back. Sometimes you'll get 3 workers back, which isn't great most of the time. Now let's talk about the other resources here. One of them are these cards here. Now these are goals. They actually go on the left side of your board, your player board, and if I was able to make a right-facing blue cheese that's aged for 1 month, facing right, I can complete this and put this on the right side of the board, and depending on how many of these I get, I'll get a certain amount of points, another way to score points at the end of the game. The last resource I haven't talked about are the structures, and you'll spend a certain amount of structures, like 1, or 3, or 5, as sort of a bonus to be able to unlock certain abilities, and each of the player boards are different. Like in the refining room, going left to right here, you get to discard an unused resource and get the resource of your choice and retrieve this worker at the next turn, because essentially it allows you to put a worker here on your board, get it back next turn, and basically trade 1 resource for another one. Now this says, in this season, you get a structure. And you'll notice the resource boards actually have seasons on them. Winter, so when this one's facing me, I get a structure. Or the dairy barn, after making cheeses, like in this case, any blue cheese there, I get a livestock. Or in the wedding venue, if I make cheese in the summer, I get 2 extra points at the end of the game for each one that's there. And so that's interesting. This region is with summer, but this is a variable setup. The order that these boards are, the way that this comes out and can flip around in different ways, there's always variability. So summer this game might be Venezia's, summer next game might be one of the other regions. So there's a ton of replayability built into the game. Now, speaking of those structures, there's the whole set of tiles that for an advanced game you can use to draft these, and then you're basically setting up your own engine and deciding which ones you actually want to use placing on top of your board. Like maybe I know I'm not going to be focusing heavy on structures just because of the way that the board's set up and where I start my turn. Maybe I want something that's a lot of less structure so I can have many lesser powerful abilities. You have a lot of flexibility in this in the advanced game. And now that you know about how the resources work, again, I'll go back here telling you, so if I got this wine, this is wild, this gets me a livestock because it's wild's here. But if I put it here because I match that, I get another one of those berry resources, and that's how those work. Now you keep playing this way simultaneously until one player has made their last cheese. They've run out of cheeses, that's the end of the round, and you go through final scoring of all of the regions, plus the other ways I've mentioned with having gold cards and berries. Some structures will score you different points at the end of the game. That's pretty much it. Whoever has the most points at the end is the winner. And there's a score pad to help track all the regions in the certain seasons for this game, the structures, the fruit, the orders, and that's pretty much it. With that you have Formaggio, and as I showed in the overview, you don't need any experience with the original game, Fromage, to enjoy Formaggio. But if you do, you can combine any 4 board quadrants and draft any combination of structure tiles for more variety and more paths to victory. Now if you'd like to see all the most up-to-date art and components and all the different pledge levels available, you can click the link directly below me. That's going to take you directly to the Kickstarter project page, and I'm sure that Road to Infamy Games would love your support.